Hello, and welcome back to the Arcade Era Power Hour episode. Are we calling this episode 14 or episode 13.2 or?
No. It's 14.
Okay, episode 14. Captain N and the Supercaders, Part 2.
Part 2.
Donkey Kong Jr.
Yes. And we're here representing DK Gerda, a fan site that covers the arcade Donkey Kong and its universe of related games and media.
Yes, we are.
I'm Milo.
And I am Gibbon.
Yes. How are you doing, Gibbon?
I'm a little under the weather, but yeah, I'm doing okay-ish.
I'm freezing cold.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I had to take my bike into the shop this morning, and I'm sure it's sub-zero out there, but it might not be.
I can't stand the cold, largely due to a laundry list of various medical conditions like wide veins and poor circulation and Raynaud's and all sorts of other things that, turn me into a living popsicle when the weather gets too low.
You're a medical marvel.
It's fun times. My boyfriend says it's like sleeping next to a snowman. But yeah, I'm doing okay.
Cool. So there's no news or anything because we did our last episode a week ago. So I think we can just jump into the topic.
Yeah. Weird. To briefly summarize, we are going over the old cartoon shows featuring Donkey Kong and friends and in general stuff that pertains to the arcade era of Donkey Kong. But as it turns out, that just happens to be cartoons about Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. So, last episode, we covered the Donkey Kong segments of the Saturday Supercade, an anthology show from the 80s that covered a variety of arcade and home console stars, such as Donkey Kong and Pitfall and Pac-Man and Frogger and whatnot.
No, not Pac-Man. He had his own show.
Sorry, right. Pac-Man had his own show.
But it was Q*bert.
Q*bert, yes.
Yeah.
The other little round one that made weird noises. And collected things in a grid.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Donkey Kong was by far the most amount of episodes, and it was just way too much content to cover in one episode. We're not the Conversation. We don't do that. So we decided to split it up into multiple episodes. So today we will be looking at the Donkey Kong Jr. segments.
And it's really interesting because, there's no other segments in the Supercade that are connected in that way. But Junior is very much a companion show to Donkey Kong. It's not exactly a sequel. It happens concurrently, pretty much.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's the implication, at least. There's a few instances throughout every once in a while, like Bones will say something like, "Oh man, it looks like maybe your papa joined the circus again," or something like that.
Yeah.
And Junior is off looking for his papa to find out wherever he is. So the sort of implication is that while DK is off having the time of his life being chased by Mario and Pauline, his son is wondering where the heck his deadbeat dad went.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tragedy because this is another of those cartoons where the premise is spelled out in the intro, and there's a bit in the intro where Junior's sitting down and crying literally until Bones comes and consoles him. But yeah, to summarize that premise, it starts with Junior swinging from vines out of the jungle directly onto a ship, directly onto the docks, directly to the circus, which I think is kind of an abstraction of his journey from his home in presumably Africa to the continental United States, where the rest of the series takes place. And he sees basically the circus sign from the intro of the Donkey Kong show, where DK has broken out of the sign and his cage is empty. And it's this is when he sits down and starts crying. Bones comes up, who is a sort of he's one of these kind of throwback 50s greaser types. He rides a motorbike everywhere and wears a leather jacket.
He's such a wimp of a greaser, though.
Well, yeah. His whole character in the show is cowardly comic relief type character. He's basically the Scooby-Doo of the show.
No, I'd say Bones is the Shaggy. You have Shaggy and Scrappy-Doo, and Scooby's not present.
Yeah. So there's these connections. Actually, in terms of the Scooby connections, the voice actor for Junior is Frank Welker, who was always the voice of Fred and actually took over as Scooby in 2002.
Wow, okay then.
Yeah. I realized we didn't talk much about the voice actors in Donkey Kong, but yeah, Frank Welker is a big figure in voice acting, I think. So he does Junior's voice. And by the way, Junior speaks in perfect English, unlike his papa.
Yeah, Junior is absolutely 100% Scrappy-Doo. Like, it's just 1-to-1.
Yes, now that you've mentioned that, I completely agree.
The kind of high, not exactly high pitched, but he's got the same sort of voice. He talks the same way. He's got the catchphrase and the random super strength when it calls for it.
Yeah, the bravado and the plot driven. He has magic plot solving abilities, basically.
So if you want to get a good idea of this show without ever having watched it, it's literally just what if Shaggy and Scrappy had their own adventures.
Yeah. They really should include this show in the list of Scooby-Doo knockoffs. When was Scrappy-Doo introduced exactly?
Oh, God. I'm going to cry if it turns out to have been after this.
No, it's 1979.
Okay.
Bones, by the way, is voiced by Bart Braverman. And his kind of... What's his voice like?
He's the most generic thing.
Yeah, it's pretty normal. I don't know.
He's just a guy.
Yeah, he's just a guy, but he's a well-meaning kind of doofus guy.
Oh, yeah, super.
And that's his character. He sees Junior in distress, and they just bond to each other, and they take off on Bones's motorbike with a sidecar.
Yeah.
And travel the country on Donkey Kong's trail, trying to reunite Junior with his papa. And yeah, like I said, this is all in the intro, and the thing I like is that Junior pulls out a photograph of DK, a mugshot, not a mugshot, but a portrait, and it's written like, so Donkey Kong can write with a pen. It says, "To Junior with love, Dad," which again is unusual because usually when you see the relationship between these two, it's addressed as Papa, right?
Yeah, even as far back as like the weirdly costumed live action commercials for like the Atari release. It's "help me save my papa."
So yeah, it's just absurd that he has this photograph that's signed by DK.
I think that might be harkening back to some attract screen stuff or arcade cabinet manual or something. That is basically help Junior save his papa was
exactly. So yeah, as we said, Bones offers his motorbike to Junior, and Junior actually jumps on and drives it, which happens in most of the episodes. They start with them driving into town, and Junior's the one driving, strangely.
We know who wears the pants in this relationship.
Yes, exactly. The relationship is interesting, actually, because I came to realize recently that Bones is basically Diddy Kong as he started off in his character arc, which connects, Junior, who grows up to be Rare's DK, just has this tendency to kind of adopt these cowardly characters and kind of inspire them over the course of their relationship. Yeah. So, yeah, Junior spouts his catchphrase in the intro, which of course is "monkey muscle," and he does a little backflip and he beats his chest. What's Scrappy's catchphrase again? Puppy power?
Yeah, puppy power.
So it's literally 1-to-1, like knockoff.
It super is.
Mm. And the other thing about the intro is that you hear bits of the intro. You hear bits of the jingle from the game, right?
Yes. Unlike the Donkey Kong show where they had to sort of sneak the leitmotif in,
Mm.
they were free to use the jingle from Donkey Kong Jr. in the game. And I want to say that's actually because a lot of the music in Donkey Kong Jr. was not original music. It was stock music.
There was some classical
Yeah.
public domain
Yeah,
pieces that were
that's
in
the
Junior,
word.
right?
Public domain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Toccata and Fugue is in
That
there.
sounds right.
Yeah.
I know the one that gets reused in like Tropical Freeze and Smash and stuff is one of the few pieces in the game that is original to the game.
Yes,
So
that's
that's the
right.
one that ends up getting reused everywhere because it's the one that's unique to the game.
Mm-hmm.
So
I will say though, I do like the DK cartoon's new motif, which it uses consistently. Da, 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 da. It's fun.
very circusy.
Yeah, sure. To compare this to Donkey Kong, where every episode had this premise of Mario and Pauline chasing after DK and then getting involved in something else. With the Junior show, I feel like the premise is a much more reduced part of the show. Like only occasionally at the very start of an episode, they come in with a bit of dialogue saying, "Oh, we were on the trail of DK, but it turned out to be like in one episode, the mascot character for Big Gorilla Burgers. They were fooled into thinking that was DK and followed that for a while."
Yeah, it's very it's very much just an excuse for them winding up in a new place.
Yeah, and then very quickly they find a new situation there to deal with. So it's less connected to the events of the game or even the premise of the show itself, I think. Yeah.
And while the Donkey Kong bits were very often like, one, here's a wacky situation they found themselves in, but also here's like the goons of the episode and the evil thing they're trying to do. Sometimes that's just not the case in the Junior show.
I think most of the time there's still a villain of the week.
That's true, I suppose. I guess what I'm getting at is a lot of the Junior episodes kind of feel like they had two different premises that they decided to stick in an episode and just reuse the same characters for to kind of thinly tie them together.
Yeah, you pointed this out to me, and once you mentioned it, I noticed how accurate that was. That they get halfway through and then suddenly there's a new situation. It reminded me of some of the Doctor Who two-parters where they're ostensibly a two-parter, but the second bit is like a new situation.
Yeah. And they've got sort of the same characters in them.
Yeah, or even some of the serials that kind of shift focus partway through, yeah.
But even then, it's sometimes really, really thin. Like, to jump ahead a little bit, there's one episode that's, what is it, Gorilla Ghost, where it's like the episode starts out with them arriving at a zoo, and we get a brief glimpse of nefarious woman that's obviously the villain going, "No, the zoo's closed, go away." And they sneak in anyway to see a relative of Junior's, and he explains that the zoo is currently haunted by this ghost of a gorilla, hence the episode title. So the first half of the episode is them completely dealing with this gorilla ghost, and the woman from the beginning isn't even mentioned again until halfway through the episode, where they finally corner the ghost, and oh look, it's just a guy in a suit, and he's the henchman of that woman. And now this episode is about them trying to secretly mine gold using captured animals from the zoo or something. It's very, very shoestringed together from the first half of the episode, and might as well be a completely new episode, really.
Yeah, But I think that keeps things fresh, even though these episodes have a very short runtime. It kind of keeps you guessing and keeps you interested in a way.
Yeah, we should mention that these are like 11 minutes long, so they're switching focus like 5 minutes at a time. It's not really a bad thing, but
Yes.
just something I noticed.
Yeah, sure. It's something about the structure of the show.
Hmm.
And I wanted to just an overview of the whole thing. A commonality in all the episodes is this relationship between Junior and Bones. And I find that pretty interesting. Like I said before, it kind of prefigures the relationship that Junior eventually has with Diddy, but and especially in that Junior always calls Bones best buddy, which seems very familiar to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Bones is the Shaggy, as you say. He's very clumsy, and he's always very scared of whatever's happening. Whereas Junior is very articulate. He's quite intelligent. He always comes up with the plans, and he's also incredibly strong, which is one of the sort of Deus Ex Machinas that usually gets them out of whatever they're into. But and like I said before, the show rarely lives up to the premise of the game, because the ostensible plot is that they're trying to catch up with DK, and therefore Mario is involved. But you never see Donkey Kong or Mario in the show itself. There's never that confrontation. It's always, again, the middle portion of the story.
Yeah, as we were saying in the previous episode, when we were commenting on the Greenhouse episode that Stanley guest starred in, it's kind of weird that the Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. segments never cross over at all.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Like, it would have been interesting even if they coordinated a little bit and had, like, here's Donkey Kong getting up to something in his segment, and then, like, if we're playing a Donkey Kong Jr. segment later in the same Power Hour block, we could have Junior and Bones arriving at the same location, like after Donkey Kong and Mario have left, or something.
Yes,
I don't know.
that would have been amazing, but it never happens.
It never happens. You'd think that'd be a good way to, I don't know, reuse some character designs and voice actors and stuff while you had them in the recording studio.
There's even an episode of Junior where they go to Mexico, and there's also a Donkey Kong episode where they go to Mexico, but they have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
And you don't even get, like, we talked last week about how in Supercade itself, there's bumpers between the cartoons that show the characters interacting, but DK never butted up against DK Jr. They were always separated by something else, so you don't even get bumpers where the characters see each other, you know?
I suppose that would have been awkward as well. Like, oh, hey, there we are. Time to split up and go do our episode again.
Yeah, something could have, but they're only like 5 seconds long anyway. So, yeah. The other thing about the relevance of the show to the game, I mentioned during the Donkey Kong episode that occasionally Mario would be climbing some stairs or something, and DK would throw cylindrical things at him as a kind of shoehorned in reference to what happens in the game. I noticed in several episodes that the particular, get out of plot free card that Junior plays involves throwing fruit, which is something he does in the game.
Yeah.
But usually it's something else quite implausible, like karate chopping a boulder in half, digging out the inside and then hiding inside it, or knocking all the sticks off a tree and then immediately constructing a hang glider, some silly thing like this. But I always noticed when there was a link to the games, like him picking up a watermelon and throwing it, like, oh, that could possibly be interpreted as a reference to the game. That's exciting.
Yeah.
But you definitely don't get any Snapjaws or Sparkies or nitpickers or anything like that.
Yeah, that's odd. Especially considering that which Super Mario show was on at the same time as this? Was it the Super Show?
I think the Super Show was later, because it was contemporary with Captain N, wasn't it? Or one of the... I don't know. We'll figure that out for next week.
But yeah, in other game tie-ins, and even like the Cubert segments and stuff, like the enemies and the other characters, so to speak, were like a bigger part of the ensemble cast of these
Yeah,
segments.
absolutely. Cubit had a consistent antagonist in the coily snake character,
Yeah.
but Junior is very much villain of the week. I think because Mario is the villain of the game, maybe they didn't want to position him as the villain of this show because he was
That's
also the protagonist of another show that was airing concurrently.
I mean, that's super fair, but at the same time, like as you say, they never really have nitpickers or anything show up.
No.
Eh.
You had a theory actually about the plots of the episodes.
Yeah, that was another thing I noticed now that you mention it, was that a lot of these episodes sort of felt like, I don't know if I'd say like pitches for other shows that had then been reworked to insert Junior and Bones into the plot. Like there's literally an episode about like this elementary school kid who gains superpowers and a talking dog and fights off
Yeah.
this super villain. And
That is
like
the weirdest episode of the
the
show.
episode's
Sure.
about them
Yep.
and Junior and Bones are just kind of there for the events of it. And yeah. So I sometimes wonder if these weren't like repurposed pitches for other things or like reworked Scooby Doo episodes. There's
Mm-hmm.
one that feels a lot like a Scooby Doo episode. Like it's pretty formulaic, and I show up at spooky house that has been inherited from conspicuously Southern Confederate relative, and you have to spend the night there to inherit it. And shenanigans ensue as someone pretends to be a ghost or something to scare people off. And I'm like, we've literally seen this episode before. It was a Scooby Doo episode.
Yeah, exactly. Well, should we do a deep dive on the
Yeah.
individual
Now that
episodes then?
we're starting talking about episodes, let's dive in.
Let's do it. Okay, so once again, several of these episodes are lost to the world, and we weren't able to watch all of them ourselves. But I think we actually have a higher proportion of them than we have of the Donkey Kong show.
Yeah.
At least that are easily available on YouTube. And I did try some other places, but didn't get much luck. So, yeah, episode 1, which aired in the same Supercade block as the first episode of Donkey Kong. So these shows were very much, airing together.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Truck Nappa Sorry, this is really Truck Nappa Caper.
Yeah, I think that's supposed
looks
to
like
be
it should
alliterative.
rhyme.
Yeah, it looks like it should be rhyming, but it doesn't.
But it's not. So this episode starts in Texas. So they've gone from wherever the circus was to Texas, although, it's very episodic.
Mm-hmm.
There's no through line, really. So I did make a note in every episode who was driving the bike at the start. Because,
Nice.
like I said before, most of the time Junior is driving, and he drives in the intro, but he doesn't drive in the Saturday Supercade intro, the one that has the... I didn't mention this last week, but the awesome theme song, I did mention the theme song, but I didn't mention my favorite line, which goes, and it feels so right because it's Supercade time. Let's have some Supercade fun.
You're way too good at that.
No, I'm not. Which I always heard as a kind of ELO Jeff Lynne kind of homage. But anyway, in the intro to the whole show, Bones is actually driving and Junior's in the sidecar. It also has this really out of place shot of Junior doing his catchphrase out loud on a completely blank background. It's bizarre. It really sticks out in the rest of the intro. But anyway, yeah. So what is this show about? One detail actually is that Bones's bike has a name and it's Alice.
Okay then.
Yep, there's your fact for the day.
Yep.
So yeah, as you can tell from the title, Truck Nappa, the villains are yes, the villains are truck hijackers, just like a bikie gang who steals trucks while they're parked in truck stops, and then
Wasn't that the
what do you
plot
call
to
it?
some Fast and Furious movie?
Probably
Yeah.
Gone in 60 Seconds. That wasn't trucks.
No, that was Cars. And that was Nicolas Cage.
He makes every movie better.
He does make every movie better. But yeah, Truck Napers. Truck Napers is the name of the day.
Yeah, they've been naping all these trucks and parking them in their sort of hideout in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And so Bones and Junior meet Jenny, a little girl, and her father, who is a trucker, and he has an amazing voice for some reason. And then the truck gets stolen, they chase the truck napers, and blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Yep. Shenanigans ensue.
Shenanigans ensue.
A line that I liked is they're trying to get into the truck while it's being guarded by one of the goons, and Bones is making the sound of a wildcat. But then the goon notices him and says, "You're not a wildcat." And Bones says, "You're right. I'm a fraidy cat. Bye." And there's that pivot point that I've now come to realize exists in most episodes where at a certain point they then join the gang and they disguise themselves as criminals. This is probably my favorite disguise of the whole show, actually, where Junior dresses himself up as a crook with a fake moustache. Or it's not even a moustache, it looks like whiskers for some reason, like from a cat, which is odd. But he comes up with this persona of Monkey Wrench Willie and sort of wins over the criminals and arm wrestles this really big tough guy, which is a funny scene because he's too short to sit in the chair, so he puts a book on the chair to then sit there. And then
Man, this needs to be some like Mr. L level. Like, we need to have a modern game where Diddy's looking for Donkey Kong, and the villain of the new the leader of the new villain group is Monkey Wrench Willie. And it's revealed at the end in a completely non-twist that, oh no, it was Donkey Kong the whole time.
And Junior also drives a truck in this episode, so he has that skill as well as driving a motorbike.
I mean, he kart races all the time, so...
This is true. He even did it back when he was a lad. Yeah, and it's one of these things where, like, Junior's plan is working, but then Bones messes it up because he's clumsy. Blah, blah, blah. That's the end. They get the truck back, whatever. That's what happens in these episodes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then they continue off into the sunset once they remember that they're looking for Junior's dad.
Yeah. Like, this formula, it was pretty common, right? Because didn't the Incredible Hulk show basically do the same thing?
Yeah, like, this wasn't a super uncommon formula at all. Like, even early Doctor Who, as you mentioned earlier, was like, we can travel in time and space, but the thing's broken and we're ostensibly trying to get you home. Oh, I wonder where we are this time. Oh, right, time machine sometime at the end of, 6 episodes later. Oh, right, we have a time machine. Let's get out of here.
This is a very good point, yeah.
It was just a convenience to get characters to wherever they were going to be this time. So,
next episode, episode 2, Sheep Rustle Hustle.
This one actually rhymes.
Yeah, I like the... I think it's Sheep Russell Husal.
Yeah. Sheep Russell Husel. Heil Russell Hustle. These are very alliterative names. Very Donkey Kong Country level name type structure. I like it.
But others are references to movies or something. Yeah, we'll get to it. So as you can tell from the title, the villain here is some sheep rustlers. Yep. It's pretty similar to the previous episode, actually, which kind of disappointed me a little, but things get weirder as the show goes on.
They sure do.
So some highlights from this one were the thing I mentioned earlier, actually, which is where Junior knocks all the sticks off a tree and builds a hang glider, and they fly off a cliff to catch up to the sheep truck.
He does this a couple times where he'll just like bang on a tree and do something with the pile of things that falls out of it.
Yeah, he's very resourceful. Again, disguises is a common trope. Bones dresses up as a sheep and hides among the sheep. He's given away when another sheep's tail tickles his nose and he sneezes, and then the crooks notice.
You say disguises in general, but
yes,
previous episode aside, more often than not, it's only Bones wearing the ridiculous costume.
Yeah, this is true. This episode does again have that pivot. Later on, they go to a ghost town, and apparently it's haunted. You know, the story is that it's haunted by an old sheriff from the Old West. And Junior throws on a sheet and impersonates the ghost sheriff, right?
Yeah.
So that's him disguising himself. But I did want to make a specific note about the sheep tail thing, because I believe that it's common practice for sheep farming to dock your sheep, which is to cut its tail off.
Oh,
because
God.
otherwise it's so fluffy that it collects the poo that the sheep leaves, and it just keeps getting dirtier, and it attracts flies and it gets infected. So it's kind of the way the sheep's biology is these days, that cutting off the tail is healthier for them. But yeah, so maybe the particular shepherds or sheep farmers in this case are careless, or it's a different kind of sheep. I don't know.
I don't know anything about sheep farming, and I'm just thinking back to like all the children's books I had growing up, where it's like, no, I think those had tails. So I don't know. Weird.
The other thing I noticed in this episode is that they have, like, this show in general has the occasional pop culture reference. So Bones at one point says "meep meep" like Roadrunner and runs away.
I didn't notice that.
It's really dumb. Yeah, pop culture references are the lowest form of, I don't know, humor. Are they supposed to be a joke? I don't know.
I don't know. Like, you say that, but some things are kind of like half of Shakespeare is pop culture references and in jokes of the day that nobody recognizes anymore. So.
So therefore, my point is that Shakespeare was a hack. Yes, thank you.
I think that's generally agreed upon by Shakespearean scholars. They're like, oh no, he was a total hack, and I love it. This is the general doctorate opinion. But yeah.
And some other Junior miraculous skills that he just pulls out of his butt in this episode are him riding a horse and using a lasso with perfect precision.
Man, using a lasso is hard. Like, I don't know if you've ever tried it in real life.
Cartoon,
but
I have not.
I don't know how people do it. Like, oh man, you gotta practice that stuff.
I always wanted to, in Hail Caesar, where Alden Ehrenreich is like a cowboy movie star, and he gets a bit of a spaghetti and makes it into a tiny lasso. It's amazing. I wish I could do that.
Oh man, that's great.
Good movie. Yeah, I think we've said everything we need to say about that episode.
Yep.
I think in the end they get the sheep back, so rest easy, people.
Yep.
Episode 3 is Rocky Mountain Monkey Business.
Nice. Rolls off the tongue.
Rocky Mountain Monkey Business. This is another episode that opens with Junior driving the bike, and they come upon some nature scouts, which is a non-copyright infringing version of the Scouts.
Is the Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts copyrighted?
I don't know, but I think a lot of shows tend to make up their own Scouts. It seems
that's fair,
for whatever reason.
Yeah, just to be on the safe side.
Sure. So yeah, they're on a nature hike, and the villain of the week is an ex-con who has a friend who is a bear called Bruno, and they're ex-circus performers.
Oh, I wonder if they know Donkey Kong.
Yeah, it was prime, opportunity to make that reference, but of course they did not. And yeah, you find out that he was fired from the circus because he used the bear to rob a bank somehow.
I mean, who's going to stop the bear?
Exactly. It's the perfect crime. But yeah, now they're sort of on the run, and I think that the idea is that he got out of prison and he buried his loot somewhere, but they don't remember where it is, and they need the scoutmaster's help to find it, and it's in a cave in a waterfall.
Did they actually establish that this takes place in the Rocky Mountains?
Well, it's in the title.
I mean, yeah, but are we just to assume? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they really do go all over America in this show, don't they?
They do.
And yeah, so Junior gets out of it using more miraculous skills. He gets some logs and hollows them out for a disguise and hides inside them, and then later turns a log into a canoe instantly. So he can just do these things, you know.
His dad would have just like broken the tree in half and paddled away with one half of it.
And that shows why they're two different characters.
Yeah, we're kind of zooming through these.
Well, I don't have much to say about these early episodes.
That's fair.
But things get weirder as we go on, as I said. But we'll get there.
I do have some notes on this next one.
Why don't you take this one?
Okay, this is The Magnificent Seven-Year-Olds, which is not alliterative, but as you mentioned, it is a reference to the Magnificent Seven. And
Only, there's not seven of them.
Yeah, there's not seven of them. They're just
case.
7-year-old. Unlike most episodes where you have like the first half is one thing and then the second half is another thing and they're kind of loosely connected, this one is split up in a more interesting manner where you've got a bookend of two like 3-minute things that are the same plot around a central 5 minutes that is completely different. But this is the one with Big Gorilla Burger where they're following a bunch of signs of the big ape or the big gorilla. Bones mentions.
Yeah, it's really the first episode that does that for an opening.
Yeah, Bones mentions in this one that like, oh hey, you think your papa joined the circus again? And then they find out that no, it's just this burger chain, and they stop to get some food before traveling on, and get caught up in some thieves stealing kids' bikes for some reason.
Yeah, it's just kind of a bunch of bully teenagers, isn't it?
Yeah, except
a bit more low
they've
stakes.
got like a car they put the bikes in. Yeah, I don't know. It's super low stakes. So you've kind of got the intro wraparound of like, oh hey, these bullies have stolen these bikes, and then we shift to the middle segment, which is Junior training these kids in like a kid's version of an army training camp, like putting them through like the tire run and stuff, like training them
anti-bully
up to
boot camp.
Yeah, and fight these bullies. And Bones hilariously failing to go through things correctly. He really just gets no respect in this episode.
Does he ever?
And then the plan has nothing to do with once they shift back to confronting the bike thieves. The plan has nothing to do with the boot camp training they've just been put through, and involves instead Bones being dressed up like an old lady to trick them and distract them while they go get the bikes back.
Yeah, this has two particularly good examples of those tropes. Disguises, in that Bones dresses up as an old lady and has to go, oh, sorry. And Junior's miraculous skills, where he makes a giant paper aeroplane that, like, it's bizarre. My only other note about this episode is that it's the rare example of Bones driving the motorbike.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much the only thing noteworthy in my notes was that instead of like a 50-50 split, it did a wraparound split for the two disparate segments, which, you know, was cleverer than before because it actually like ends the episode on the same plot that it began the episode on. So, I don't know.
Yeah, you made a comment to me while watching it. You said, what didn't this episode used to be about bike thieves? Because we're in the middle of like this whole training montage for these kids. But like you say, they do bring it back at the end, so that's good.
Pretty much. These are all pretty by the numbers so far. You know, Bones in disguise, is clumsy, messes up thing, Junior pulls out a superpower, and saves the
Yep.
day. Um,
Yeah.
and they're all pretty low stakes. And I guess this was the first one to actually kind of actively mention the conceit of the show that they're looking for Donkey
Mm.
Kong. So
Yeah, so I'd say if you're watching the show and you want like a viewing guide, skip the first 3 episodes at least. This might be a good place to start. But the next one that we watched is particularly good, but there's 3 missing episodes in between. So we have the Ventriloquist Caper as episode 5, and we don't know what it's about, but I have to assume that at some point Junior pretends to be a ventriloquist dummy. You just have to assume that, right?
really, I would kind of assume that Bones gets to pretend to be the dummy with Junior voicing him.
Possibly. I was just thinking in terms of size, but that would be a funnier image if Bones is sitting on someone's lap. And yeah, it might be odd.
Yeah.
I think it's probably like somebody steals a gorilla dummy and then
Ooh.
Junior has to pose as the dummy or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but then you're missing the obvious Bones is a dummy joke.
They could still do that. Turn it around.
That's fair.
Episode 6 is called The Great Seal Steal, which is intriguing because it opens up the possibility of another animal character appearing in the show, but I don't really know what it would be about. It's probably a zoo with a rare seal, and then the villain wants to kidnap the seal.
Or maybe the thieves are seals. I don't know. It's probably what you said. Like, they get weird in the show, but not that weird.
Yeah, I should point out that, so we mentioned during the Donkey Kong show how it's unusual that Donkey Kong can talk, and they sometimes call attention to this. And it's possible that only Pauline can understand him. But in this one, Junior is interacting with humans all the time and talking, and it's no problem.
Yep.
But there's not really any other animal characters until a later episode. Whereas, yeah, I'm thinking of the other shows where Frogger, you've got the main cast are investigative reporters who are animals, and people sometimes remark on it, but generally don't mind that much. And in Pitfall, one of the main characters is a cowardly, well, he's a lion, isn't he? A cowardly lion, yeah. Who is basically talks like Snagglepuss or whatever.
Oh god, he does, doesn't he?
So yeah, it's just kind of a thing in this show where animals are often semi-anthropomorphized, but to varying degrees. That is a bit inconsistent.
Yeah.
So episode 7 is the Jungle Boy Ploy.
Yeah, I don't know.
This has got to be about like Baby Tarzan or George of the Jungle or something.
Yeah,
right?
something like that would be my guess.
Yeah, George of the Jungle was a cartoon. When was that?
Oh, I want to say that was way earlier.
Yeah, it probably was. I only know the Brendan Fraser movie, of course.
Yeah.
Being a child of the 90s as I am.
That
By the creators of Rocky and Bullwinkle.
that was a Jay Ward cartoon, so I'm assuming it was ancient. Yeah.
But still, it would be in the zeitgeist, maybe especially for people who are writing cartoons at the time. Yeah. They had probably watched it as kids, that kind of thing. So yeah, Jungle Boy Play. I think this could have potential to, have some interesting comparisons of Junior to a Tarzan-like figure or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe Junior just poses as a Tarzan.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Could be like the DK episode where they go to Africa or something.
Yeah, that would be interesting because the rest of them, they're in the US or Mexico.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yep. Who knows? Not us, because the episode's not available.
But what we do know about is episode 8, Junior Meets Kid Dynamo, which is a very straightforward title.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the weird one that we've kind of alluded to a few times. This is when things get pretty strange.
This is that superhero pilot that is a Donkey Kong Jr. episode for some reason.
Yeah, it's either a backdoor pilot or just a failed pitch that got reworked into an episode.
Yeah, like it starts out with Junior with Bones in tow driving into town, and they witness some sort of, is it a straight up bank or just the safe from something else? I can't remember. They witness a robbery in progress and foil it, and in a rare instance of Bones being clumsy, Junior fails to catch him as he falls off the ledge of a skyscraper. And then Kid Dynamo flies in, literally.
Oh, yeah. Bones almost died in this
Yeah,
episode.
normally Bones is like clumsy or something, and then Junior catches him and is like, "Why are you so clumsy, Bones?" But in this
Mm-hmm.
instance, he's right next to Junior and he falls off for plot reasons. And
Mm.
the flying superhero kid flies in and saves him and foils the supervillains. His blue talking dog shows up, which elicits a "Holy crap, a talking dog" line. As you were saying, most
Yeah.
people don't comment on these things in these episodes, but every once in a while they do when the episode calls for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it probably would have been a more big deal in the Kid Dynamo show, but in the Donkey Kong Jr. show, where one of the main characters is already a talking animal,
Yeah,
maybe it's
basically.
not as impactful.
And then the episode just kind of plays out about Kid Dynamo. Like Junior and Bones are there, but it's like the
Mm.
supervillain and his henchmen tracking down Kid Dynamo by looking for the obviously blue dog in the neighborhood
Mm-hmm.
and finding out, and the kid hiding the fact that he's a superhero from his parents and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And, and his friend Donkey Kong Jr. and Bones are also in this shot, sort of thing. And it just,
Yeah, it feels like a crossover guest appearance of Junior and Bones in another show rather than an episode of their
yeah,
show.
kind of.
It's interesting. It's an interesting break from the format, I would say,
Well,
which made for a fun
it
watch.
reminds me of that one episode of Dexter's Lab when the Blue Falcon is present.
Sure, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's especially interesting because for the most part this show is very grounded. Junior's miraculous powers aside, the stakes are quite low a lot of the time, but this is just literally the kid is a Superman and the villain Dr. Demise is like a mad scientist cackling away. Is it worth talking about the plot? So
Yeah.
Ricky is this kid who a blue meteor hit the ground, and the dust from the blue meteor gave him superpowers, and it turned his dog blue and made it able to talk. The dog's called Lightning. And the villain, Dr. Demise, does a science to the remaining blue meteor dust in the museum to turn it red, and that's going to reverse his powers.
Literally
And
just
they get trapped in a
Superman.
pit. Junior does actually get them out of it in another rare fruit-related solution where he grabs a banana and squeezes it so that the inside shoots out like a projectile and hits a switch, which releases them.
Hey, banana
Classic.
guns. Classic Smash Bros. Weapon.
Exactly. Yeah, I noted that connection, and yeah, at some point, Junior and Bones disguise themselves as train conductors for some reason. I don't remember what happened in the latter half of the episode, but
Yeah, I don't either, actually. Like, this episode was weird.
yeah, it's bizarre because it establishes all these things like, yeah, magic meteors that give you superpowers exist in this universe. That's fine. Let's just move on. And they do move on at the end of the episode. That's it. Bye. See
Yep.
you. See you next time. We'll go off somewhere else now.
Mm-hmm.
It's very strange, but fun.
Yep. Yeah, these are fun.
Mm. I had a few sort of must-watch episodes of the DK show, which I found interesting, but this is the first one for this show that I would say is a must-watch. I'll save it for final thoughts, but I think Donkey Kong does a better job at making interesting episodes with the premise,
Well,
with the formula.
there's just less episodes of this one total.
Yeah,
Like,
true.
Donkey Kong had 20 or so episodes. Donkey Kong Jr. only has 13.
Yeah.
And while there were a decent number of Donkey Kong episodes missing, there were still just more available overall to pick and choose from.
True.
Whereas we're only missing like 4 or so of these, but a lot of them are just sort of paint by numbers episodes, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, but I think the premise of Donkey Kong, where you have different parties that have relationships and they all have this interplay with each other, as well as the villain of the week, makes for more interesting stories than the Junior show, which often, as you say, is very straightforward and paint by numbers.
Yeah, I was saying last week that it would have been interesting if they had Stanley as a guest. Like, the timing didn't exactly work out because this show had already been on the air for like half a year or so before Donkey Kong 3 came out. So, like, obviously they wouldn't have been able to do this from the get-go. But I was saying it would have been interesting if they had Stanley as a regular recurring character on Donkey Kong Jr. And I suggested that he be in Bones' position, but I now think it'd be a little more interesting if they had Stanley as like a recurring side bad guy who was also looking for Donkey Kong. Um,
But for
but
different
for different
reasons. Yeah, yeah.
reasons. So he could, happen to show up everywhere that Junior does, following the same trail, and butt
Yeah,
heads
that
with
would be
him,
interesting.
in addition to
Hmm.
whatever the plot of the episode was going to be.
Mm. Yeah, I just think that would have added another, factor to the formula of this show. Whereas, as it is, they have to make do with, I don't know, gimmicks and
Yeah,
filler.
having three characters
Which is
in
a bit
Donkey
harsh, but
Kong versus the two regulars in Junior,
mm,
and the two regulars are like the friends and not antagonistic to each other at all. So
hmm
it's just less of a dynamic to work with on an episode by episode basis.
exactly. But I think that's too much final thoughts talk
Yeah.
in the middle of this episode breakdown. Maybe we could edit it into the end or something. But
Eh,
uh, yeah, either
yeah.
way, it's fine. So shall we go to the
Yes.
next episode? Did you watch this one, number 9?
I watched a bit of this one.
So this is the amazing roller skate race.
Yes.
Where the plot of the moment is that a particularly ethnically diverse team of roller skating children called the Roller Stars. They're kind of like the Captain Planet team, you know.
But they're on roller skates.
But yeah, they're children. This is another one that starts with another false trail. So
Yeah, surprisingly.
they're just leaving a zoo and saying, "Oh, it's too bad. We thought that was Donkey Kong, but it wasn't. It just turned out to be a big monkey." But when the actual plot kicks in, the idea is that these kids have ordered new roller skates, but accidentally been sent ones that happen to have gold wheels. So they're incredibly valuable, but they don't realize this. And the crooks of the week keep trying to steal the skates because there's gold in them.
This is such a like 90s
very
movie
contrived.
plot. Like, do you remember Blank Check? Reminds me of Blank Check.
That rings a bell.
It's
What is that?
the one where you've got the kid who enters some dumb thing and accidentally gets written a blank check by the crook who's just committed some like banking fraud and gotten a million bazillion dollars in his account, and the kid just on a whim pens in $1 million and sends the check in. And the person at the bank who's part of this scheme, who thinks like, oh, this is how we're doing this, I guess. Odd to use a kid, but whatever. So the kid ends up with all the money in his account and doesn't really realize what's going on. And so you've got the villain sort of trying to get the money back throughout the movie, and the kid being oblivious to it while just creating this lavish, like, Willy Wonka factory of a mansion along the way. Anyway, yeah, it just sort of reminded me of that, where kids get a bunch of money without really realizing it or the implications of it, and you've got the villains trying to get it back. It's very, very 90s movie plot.
Yeah, absolutely. But if they had realized that, they wouldn't, like, the episode wouldn't have actually had a plot, because they're trying to win a race to earn the prize money so that they can build a new clubhouse. So if they knew that their skates were gold, they would have just sold them.
Yeah, something like that.
So yeah, Junior and Bones fall in with these kids and want to help them. Well, they're trying to help them fight off the crooks so that they can win the race. And this is the one where they go to Mexico because, for no reason at all, the big racing tournament is being held in Mexico City. And this really just gives them an excuse to go through all of the same cultural cliches that Donkey Kong did in its Mexico episode, where they ride on a donkey, they dress up as mariachis, Bones accidentally becomes a matador briefly.
Would you say that's the episode split in this one? Is it one part?
Oh, yeah,
is
absolutely.
The like, oh, we've got kids in this roller skate race, and then also we have this 5-minute segment about Bones and Junior in Mexico, and we need to attach it to something. So
Yep, exactly. Junior rides a bull, and there was a particularly cruel moment where they want the donkey to run faster, so they feed it a bunch of chili, and it goes and then runs off.
Hey, it works on Yoshi.
Oh yeah, Mario Galaxy 2, right?
Yes.
Weird. Yeah, they were probably inspired by this episode of Saturday Supercade, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They win the race. That's the plot.
Yeah. Yeah. Winning happens. Did they?
Yes,
I
they
can't remember. Did they ever
and-
find out the roller skates are made of gold?
I don't remember. I think they do, and then oh no, I don't know. It's not important.
Yep.
Yep.
Yup.
Yep.
Was an episode.
Is that it?
I don't have any more notes or things to say about this, really. Like,
that's fine.
Yeah.
Episode 10 is one I really wanted to get a hold of, but I unfortunately couldn't. It's called A Christmas Story. And I'm very curious about how this would have gone down.
A rare holiday episode. I don't think Donkey Kong had any of those.
No, not that we were able to watch anyway, and none that were evident from the title. But yeah, I'd have to wonder about this, because does Junior know about Christmas, or does Bones have to teach him about it? Because that could be an interesting plot, I guess. And Junior could be sad because he's not able to celebrate with his papa. But it's probably some villains steal a Christmas tree and they have to get it back for some reason.
Yeah, probably. With a B plot of I don't know, they go to Morocco or something. The Christmas tree thieves travel to the Caribbean. I don't know.
Do you think it's likely that they would actually meet Santa in this episode?
Oh, 100%. You've got to take odds on that not happening to get a better betting pool going on.
Yeah, and I think it's also likely that Junior just knows about Christmas and oh yeah, we celebrate that in Africa, because that happens in one of the German Club Nintendo magazines that was released after Donkey Kong Country 3, where it's just, hey, Christmas, why not?
Yep.
Yep.
You.
There's even a Little Mermaid comic where they're celebrating Christmas. It's how do you know about Christmas?
Wonderful holiday of Saturnalia.
See, that would have made more sense. But yeah, we don't know what that's about. But we do know episode 11.
Yes, this
is I think my favorite one from this show.
This is a good one.
And it's Gorilla Ghost.
Yeah, it's the one we were talking about earlier. They're going to expand on the plot I mentioned in brief. They're going to the zoo to visit Junior's uncle Julius to see if he knows where Donkey Kong is.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why I like it so much, because it expands on that thing that's so fundamental to the Donkey Kong series, the Kong family.
Yeah.
We have a direct relative of Junior in Uncle Julius, which is also funny because we have a friend called Juliusaurus, which is his sort of online pseudonym. But he does a lot of cool Donkey Kong art. Yeah. So there's a bonus plug for you. Check out Juliusaurus's DeviantArt, I guess. He did a design. He did a redesign of Candy Kong. He did a design of Ms. Donkey Kong.
His redesign of Candy Kong is kind of presciently similar to Tawna's new look in Crash 4.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Actually, our other friend Orson Zed recently drew a character image of a young Wrinkly, calling her Jenny Kong, which I think is a name that you also suggested.
I suggested that name for young Wrinkly, but also for a hypothetical Donkey Kong the Third. Jenny, of course, being the term for a female donkey. So
exactly, yes. So I guess the question about Julius is he Donkey Kong's brother, or is he Wrinkly Kong's brother?
Or is he just a friend of the family and Junior's calling him uncle in the same way that Diddy calls Donkey Kong uncle?
That's
Yeah.
possible. I didn't consider that.
I prefer to think of this as Cranky's long lost brother. I don't
Sure,
know what
it
his
works.
video game name would be.
But if he's long lost, then how does Junior know about him? Because they're
Well,
specifically
long
going
lost
to
by
meet
the
him.
time of the Donkey Kong Country games.
Yeah, okay,
um,
sure. I found it interesting that in the episode, like especially at the end, they go, "Oh, we're gonna go find Papa." Julius doesn't seem to acknowledge Donkey Kong at all in the episode.
um, they. I want to say Junior mentions it like briefly when they first show up to sort of explain why we're there. And then yeah, it's never mentioned
Junior
again.
does, but Julius doesn't react at all.
Nope,
He doesn't
he
say anything about Donkey
super
Kong.
doesn't. Um,
Very strange to me.
um, but yeah, this was a like the evil woman is there to block off them getting into the zoo, but they get into the zoo
Yep.
anyway, and they spend the first episode running around, trying to corner this gorilla ghost, and then it turns out it's just a guy in a suit, and the guy is the henchman of this
hmm
woman who conveniently shows back up. And all of the missing zoo animals are being used in the mine that these two are running somehow. This is where the aforementioned hollowing out and hiding in boulders that you mentioned occurs.
It's just weird. Yeah.
There's a bit where they ride around on ostriches, which I
Yes.
caught because I was like, "Hey, video game thing." Not that that was a thing at the
Espresso.
time, but um,
No, it's another one of those things where the show is prefiguring something that happens later
yeah.
in the series.
Given the Kid Dynamo episode, I was kind of hoping that it was an actual gorilla ghost, um,
Yeah.
but no.
No.
Also, I
The
noted a rare instance of media that acknowledges that gorillas nest.
Oh yeah.
Gorillas make nests similar to birds,
Yep.
except they're gorilla sized. And while they can be on the ground, they're often up in trees. And you just don't really see that ever in media because, I guess, to the general public who hasn't looked into such things, like, why would a gorilla be in a giant bird nest? But they do have that in this episode, and I was impressed. So
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, the episode is full of the usual shenanigans. The I noticed that the thug in costume as Gorilla Ghost rides on an elephant at one point, which again
yeah,
is prefiguring gorillas on
and we
elephants. But
have Bones in the bad gorilla costume to lure out the gorilla
yes,
ghost.
yes, just as Mario wears the gorilla suit
hmm
in that other
In
episode.
the one where he the hair air the
Hairy
hairy
Parent.
parent. There we go.
Yes. Yeah, so you've got the Bones disguise. They also, again, disguise themselves in hollow logs at one point, or a stump, and they're hiding in the
Mm-hmm.
boulders. Let's see, at one point, Junior, so they're in a snake pit, and to get out of the pit, Junior grabs a bunch of popcorn kernels. This is another instant superpower that he apparently has. He rubs them very vigorously in his hands, and by so doing, generates enough heat so that they pop, thereby expanding their volume and creating a large mound under them that they can then climb out of the pit. It's probably the weirdest thing that Junior does in the whole show to get out of a situation.
A rare instance of Junior pulling a thing out twice in one segment, because earlier he did the punch a tree and do something with what falls out bit where he takes all of the way more bananas than could fit in a tree, not that that was even a banana tree, and proceeds to eat all of them and just cover, drown the ghost in a pool of banana peels, and that's how they end up capturing the guy before the transition into the mine, because as soon as they corner the guy, the woman comes out and is like, "Oh, I guess I have to do everything myself."
Junior also has the ability to. Well, they're all manacled up in the mine, and he just snaps the chains by hand instantly. That's how strong he is. And then they roll some giant boulders and run on top of them, which is a fun
Mm-hmm.
kind of video gamey thing. And of course, Bones is unable to do it
Yep.
correctly. But yeah, like this, there's so much weird stuff happening in this episode. That's why it's my favorite, as well as introducing the Julius.
He's going to
character
mention
who,
Julius's take on the catchphrase.
yeah. At some point, Junior, of course, always says "monkey muscle." Julius comes in and has an equivalent catchphrase of "big monkey muscle."
Yeah. He's a little
very
scared
creative
of what's going on, but is like, but I can't run off because I gotta save Junior. And he's like, big monkey muscle. And takes
yeah. Using it to pump himself up. Yeah.
I notice he looks nothing like Donkey Kong over in the Donkey Kong segments.
That's a good point. Yeah.
He looks more like a Scooby-Doo design to me, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Which, like, this is obviously done by the same people who did Scooby-Doo, but, like, Donkey Kong over in Donkey Kong is kind of evoking the cab art from the arcade cabinets, whereas Uncle Julius here looks like a gorilla drawn in the style of the Scooby-Doo animation.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're like, how can these be brothers? But they are.
Yep.
Apparently. Or brother-in-law, whatever.
Never heard from again.
No. And we never see him before or since. But I would highly recommend watching this one. If you watch no other episode of Junior, this one is just really silly and fun and has that lore, like we said, even if it's a bit half-baked.
Interestingly, both the episodes of Junior and Donkey Kong with other talking gorillas are the best ones.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Episode 12, then, is also kind of interesting. It's called Teddy Bear Scare. And what I found interesting about this was that it is a little bit different to the usual formula. You don't have Junior and Bones rolling into town and stumbling upon some situation. It starts with them taking a job as babysitters. So like, oh, we need a bit of money. Let's watch this child for the day at a carnival while the mother does something. It's like the only one really that...
Yeah, these last two episodes, like the Kid Dynamo one earlier, don't... They feel like episodes of something else that have been repurposed in my mind.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. It really... You really notice it in this one, I guess, because it doesn't adhere to the same formula as usual. Yeah. Anyway, the villain of the week is a bunch of thieves. They have pulled off a robbery and have a bunch of cash, and for some reason they stash it inside a giant teddy bear.
You know, as you do.
As you do, yes. And so Bones and Junior are playing carnival games with this child who is called Patty. She's a young girl. Bones is, of course, clumsy as usual, but Junior manages to win 3 games at once with his awesome skills and Patty requests a particular teddy bear, which, oh no, it happens to be the same one where all the cash is in it. It's a bit like the golden roller skates.
Yeah.
So the villains are chasing after this teddy bear. Junior and Bones want to get the teddy bear back because Patty likes it. They steal it's a bike with a freezer on it.
Yeah.
They sell ice cream from.
Yeah, totally.
I'm just having trouble describing it.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know if our
yes.
listeners will know what you're talking about, but it's definitely a thing.
It's like, yeah, it's an ice cream stall with a bike attached. Yeah. So they attach it to roller coaster tracks to chase the villains who are in a roller coaster car, and they go around a loop, and like the ice cream falls out and all this junk. And then there's more disguise shenanigans where Junior dresses as your stereotypical carnival barker, roll up, and while Bones goes inside and impersonates a magician called Cormac, the Great Cormac or something. At this point, there's some cops in the park who have misidentified Junior and Bones as the thieves, and they're chasing them. And so they're actually dressing up to get off the trail of the police. And Bones has to improvise some magic, which is kind of silly. Yada, yada, yada.
Yep. Shenanigans ensue.
Yes. And Junior actually ends up in another disguise, pretending to be the teddy bear, so the crooks take him away and then he can beat them up. But this is an interesting thing. I sort of alluded to it earlier, where Junior would end up inspiring his buddy to more bravery because of his own character.
Yeah.
Where Junior is in the clutch of the bad guys, right? And Bones says, well, now I have to rescue him for once. And he attempts to kind of impersonate Junior and do the monkey muscle thing, but he can't backflip like Junior does, so he falls over. It's very
To be
funny.
fair, backflipping is difficult.
Yes, very much so. So I don't blame Bones at all, but I give him credit for, the attempt at least. The attempt at the brave act that he's trying to do, inspired by Junior. So that's cool. It's a nice character moment. And there's another game moment as well, where Junior throws a watermelon. So yay, fruit attack!
Yay.
There you go. So yeah, I did like this episode.
Yeah, Carnival's a nice setting.
Mm.
Like, it doesn't resonate with Junior as much as it does with Donkey Kong, but it's still just a great setting for lots of wacky shenanigans, like the roller coaster chase and lots of costume swaps and stuff like that. It's I don't know, it's a good place to set these sorts of cartoons. You obviously can't do it like every episode, but it makes for a good one.
Which brings us to the final episode of the show. It's called Double or Nothing.
I don't actually know why it's called that.
Generic gambling reference, but it refers to the fact that Bones impersonates his cousin.
Oh,
and
you're
there's two of them.
right. I totally didn't twig onto that. Yeah.
So do you want to explain the premise? of this one?
Yeah. This is the Scooby-Doo episode that stars Bones and Junior. Only instead of Scooby inheriting a spooky old mansion from his Confederate friend, it's Bones's cousin Lucy Bell Jefferson inheriting the mansion from great-grandfather Colonel Beaufort Jefferson. And I'm not just saying Confederate for nothing. There's like portraits of him on the wall in Confederate uniform.
Yeah, yikes.
She's a total Southern belle, like it's literally in her name.
Yep.
And her design is like Bones in a blue wig with a dress on, which is important later because Bones later disguises as her by putting a wig and a dress on. But it's typical Scooby-Doo plot. There's nefarious groundskeeper and the executor of the estate want this for themselves and try to chase off our heroes. And of course they try to kidnap Lucy Bell, or I guess they succeed in kidnapping Lucy Bell so that she won't be there for the reading of the will and therefore be disqualified.
Yes.
Hence Bones needing to dress up as her.
It very much uses cartoon/sitcom will logic, where there's very specific rules about the will, and if you don't follow them to the letter, like, you don't inherit.
Yeah, because that's how that works.
Because I'm pretty sure wills don't really work
No,
like this.
not at all.
Yeah, their logic is if Lucy Bell's not there to inherit, then it defaults to them for some reason. And also, Lucy Bell doesn't just have to be there. She has to solve this strange
before
puzzle
midnight or something like that.
Yeah, before midnight. There's a time limit on it too. It's all very strange. Yeah.
So yeah, this episode has nothing to do with finding DK. It is in fact about like going and participating in some Bones family drama that was, completely out of the way and stuff.
Yeah, Bones-centric episode. I think he's earned it at
Yeah,
this
that's
point.
super fair.
So yeah, as we said, Bones, in order to ensure that his cousin inherits ahead of these villains, he dresses as her and attends the will reading. But only she is able to solve the puzzle because it refers to something that is specific to her relationship with the great-grandfather.
Yeah. And like once she's back, she solves it fairly quickly and in short order.
Well, she solves it immediately before the deadline, actually.
Yeah. Well, like it.
But it does take them a while to get it back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it takes a while to get her back, and they're like, "Oh no, we've only got like this little time left. Will you be able to solve it?" And she looks at it for a few minutes, and she's like, "Oh yeah, it's this." Like,
It's a very simple puzzle. It's like a series of blocks with pictograms on them, and it spells out a thing, and then they eventually figure out that it's rum, pool, stilt, and skin, or some stupid thing like that. So that
yeah.
it refers to Rumpelstiltskin, which the Colonel character used to read to her, apparently.
But along the way to that, there's a bunch of shenanigans and whatnot.
Yes, of course. The it really stuck out to me as soon as she solves it. Again, the deadline was midnight, so it cuts to a shot of the clock, and the clock strikes 12, and the shot lingers on the clock as it goes through the entire 12 gongs of its cycle.
You gotta fill out those 11 and a half minutes somehow, man.
Exactly. Like, do you need this padding that you're hanging on this shot of the clock for the 12 full dongs?
Budget ran out literally on the last shot of the show. We just gotta stay on the clock.
It's very strange. But yeah, there's all sorts of shenanigans in the meantime as this is happening. At one point, Junior uses quote unquote jungle judo to chop a tree into logs.
Why not?
Sure, whatever. I noticed. He also uses fruit at one point. Ding! He uses fruit.
Yeah.
He chucks a bunch of apples at the kidnappers, and they trip over them. They're in the kitchen at one point, and Junior makes a giant pie, but then he falls in it by mistake, and so he's covered in dough, which does actually refer back to the game in a way, although they probably didn't intend it, because the Acorn computer had a port of Junior. I'm doing this from memory. I don't remember. Yeah. So I included it in my video, which you can see linked from DK Gerda, but there's a sort of dummied out level. The theory is in the Acorn port that the developer put in there saying, "Hey, look, we can expand on the game," and then it got knocked back and say, "No, we just keep it to the original stuff."
Yeah.
So it's not in like the retail version of the game, but there was like a hack that made it available or something. I think that's the idea. There was some suggestion that it is possibly done later by a modder or a hacker, but I'm not sure. I believed that it was an original creation of the time that was dummied out. But yeah, this is to explain the level. It takes place in a giant kitchen where Junior, like Mario's at the top, and there's all these dough monsters and giant mixers, and Junior has a platform across the giant kitchen equipment. So it's pretty cool, and most likely an unintentional reference, as I said, but it's fun that it's there. I can claim. And similarly, at one point, they're like trapped in an outdoor shed, and Junior blows the door down by blowing at it from his mouth, which again he will do much later in Donkey Kong Country Returns.
Yeah.
So let's see. He gets thrown down a laundry chute. Another implausible thing that Junior does. He lands on a dirty old mattress at the bottom of a laundry chute for some reason, and pulls some springs out of it, sticks them into his feet, and then uses them to do a super jump out through the laundry chute.
I'm not gonna lie, I winced watching that scene.
Yeah, but pretty cool. Yeah. Jumping.
Also uses fruit.
Yes. So this episode is chock full of these kinds of references, intentional or not, but
yeah,
it's got a lot of fun shenanigans happening in it, as well as Bones impersonating a southern girl.
Yeah, it's also one like whole 11-minute segment. Like it didn't shift gears really.
True.
Which just lends credence to my thought that this was repurposed from elsewhere.
But as such, it's a fun episode that I would recommend. It's maybe my second favorite, I think.
Yeah, it was a good episode.
So why is Lucy Bell so southern if Bones is not southern at all?
I mean,
how does that work?
My ex-wife was from a southern Texan family and was the only one without an accent, so this didn't really bother me at all. Like,
yeah, that's I guess it yeah, that's not implausible. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I find that's just I was commenting on it a little bit, but like, yeah, that just happens a
Mm.
lot. Like in the Donkey Kong show, there was a lot of Southerners in the guest cast list. Well, not the cast list, but the character list, and just didn't really happen in Donkey Kong Jr. until um, the end here prominently. But
Mm.
it happens in Scooby Doo a lot too, where it's just like there's just a lot of like Southerners and ex-Confederate types or stuff kind of in the
As
background.
villains,
No,
or
like I was saying, like in similar episodes where Shaggy or Scooby is, inheriting some house from a old uncle or whatever, it's always like, Scooby's friend, ex-Confederate General Beauregard or whatever, you know?
so
Like,
strange. Yeah.
and I think there was some. I don't know if it was one of the TV movies or something where they uncover a stash of money that someone's left behind, and it ends up all being Confederate bills, so it's useless even though the villains got their hands on it. Um,
Oh, that's
yeah.
funny. Is it because it's an easy accent for the regulars to put on
Uh,
for a
it
one-off?
could be. I don't know. Yeah, I find it
Cartoon accents.
interesting that seems to happen a lot. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, interesting point. I had a side note here as well in that you've got Buford Jefferson, the great grandfather, and Lucy Bell Jefferson carrying on the family name. At one point, Bones's second name is given as Bailey, Bones Bailey.
Hmm.
So he doesn't have the Jefferson name. So I guess it's his mother who's related to this family or
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we mentioned that. Yeah, the Bones is called Bones Bailey. Actually, Bones is a nickname. I think did they establish that in this episode?
I can't
Uh,
remember specifically.
yeah,
It would probably be this episode. Um,
yeah. He's never given another name, a proper name, but
I
yeah,
gotta
Bones
wonder
is
how
good.
he came up with this. Like, who nicknamed him Bones?
I'm guessing it's because he was a skinny boy and he was just skin and bones.
Hmm, could be.
Because he's quite lanky.
That's true. Weird.
So that's all the episodes of Donkey Kong Jr.
Yes.
Um, I think it's an interesting show. We can do a little final thought segment, a comparison to Donkey Kong. We covered a lot of it earlier, though.
Mm-hmm.
But just to reiterate, I think that Donkey Kong has a more interesting premise whereby you have different parties that have different motivations and relationships to each other that interact with the situation that's happening as well. Whereas in this show, Junior and Bones come in with, they're very much a unit and they directly interact with the situation that's happening
Yeah.
and then they leave at the end.
Yeah.
And just like you said, like the plots in this sort of more formulaic and held up with just random nonsense, which is fun in a way as well.
Yeah, just the different character dynamics and thinking about it now, I think having because a lot of the situational humor and gags in Donkey Kong are from Mario and Pauline and Donkey Kong playing off of each other in this friendly antagonistic relationship while whatever plot
Mm,
of the episode is going on.
mm,
Whereas a lot of the humor in the junior episodes is pretty formulaically like getting Bones into a silly costume during which he is clumsy and messes up Junior's plan, directly
mm,
furthering whatever the plot of the episode is. So there's not a whole lot of incidental humor going on. It's all directly related to the episode plot. And
mm,
maybe they're stringing basically 2 5-minute episodes together per junior episode is because there's not enough material there for a full 11 minutes without all of the like Mario and Donkey Kong playing off of each other for a bit going on in between plot beats sort of
mm.
thing.
Yeah, yeah. Like you said, I did notice quite a few times an episode would suddenly be derailed by Bones tripping over something, and then a bunch of shenanigans happen. So he's really an instigator of chaos a lot of the time. But having said that, I do like him as an introduction to the universe and like as this best friend of Donkey Kong Jr.
Yeah.
Um, and like as a regular cast member, basically for this era, he's pretty fun. But I think, well, yeah, the reason he exists, I think, is because they made this decision early on that they wouldn't be able to use basically most of the formula of the game, which is Donkey Kong and Mario, because they were appearing in a different show. So what do you do when the only character in your show is Donkey Kong Jr., just that and nothing else? Well, you make up this other stuff, and that's fine. And I think it works for the show. And it ends up with a lot of silly, fun stuff happening.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I kind of wish they would have.
Sometimes it's too silly.
Like, this timing for Stanley didn't work out, and I'm not sure how they were licensing properties anyway. So it might have been that they wouldn't have been able to do that anyway. But like, it would have been nice if they, like Bones, they had invented another character to be like a recurring person to butt heads with each episode, so that you could have a little bit more of an ensemble cast.
I agree. Yeah. And that's maybe why it got cancelled earlier than Donkey Kong. Who knows?
Did it get cancelled earlier, or was it just not a tentpole and therefore wasn't like on every episode?
Oh, that's a good point. I'm not sure about that because, since a lot of the episodes are missing, we also don't have complete broadcasts, so we don't really know, when the segments aired and that kind of thing. So I can't answer that.
Because, like, Frogger also only has 13 segments. Cubert's got a full 19. Donkey Kong Jr. has 13. Donkey Kong has 20. Pitfall only has 7. Space Ace has 13. Kangaroo has 13. So it seems like 13 was the much more common number to have. And Donkey Kong and Cubert were the outliers.
Interesting.
It seems that Donkey Kong Jr. and Pitfall were only in the first season, with Space Ace and Kangaroo replacing them in the second season.
Right.
And then it mentions that Donkey Kong was on more often than the others, and then Hubert was more sporadic in the second season, but moved to weekly in the second season. And then Frogger, Donkey Kong Jr., and Pitfall were axed and replaced with Space Ace and Kangaroo.
Space Ace seems really out of place in that lineup.
Yeah. I'm not going to argue with that. But
did we cover that show pretty well, do you think?
I think so. We covered as much of it as we could, really.
Yeah. So that's it for this episode.
More or less, yeah.
I'm really glad I watched the Junior show as well as Donkey Kong, because comparing them was really interesting.
Yeah, it was nice. Comparing the different formulas and how they compare to things, and also just how they are similar in different ways to different shows this studio has also done.
Yeah, recognizing those archetypes, like how Junior is a Scrappy-Doo and Bones is a Shaggy, etc.
It's kind of a shame they never did any combined show with Donkey Kong and Mario and Pauline and Junior and Bones and whoever, and kind of kept it going. Like, it'd be interesting if sort of these Donkey Kong shows continued on the same way the Scooby-Doo shows did, and kept like bringing characters back or repurposing characters for different things. And I don't know.
No, that would be really cool. So that's it for the Supercade coverage on this Power Hour series. But next episode, we're going to be taking a look at a very different take on Donkey Kong and the mythos.
Yes.
With Captain N, which should be a really interesting discussion.
It should be a really interesting discussion, because it's a very different approach to a game anthology show.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll get into that next time on the Arcade Era Power Hour.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, do you have any plugs, Gibbon?
I do. We are recording this on July 6th, and tomorrow, for the first time in English, the book that Kiki's Delivery Service is based on is coming out in the United States, and is getting
Wow.
a hardcover release, a Kindle release, and an audiobook on Audible at the same time. And I'm super excited about it because that was the first Miyazaki film I ever saw, and
And it's a really
it's a
good
really
one.
good one.
I didn't even know it was based on a
I
book, but a
didn't
lot of them
either.
are.
So as soon as this popped up in my recommendations a couple months back, I was like, "Wait, what?" And immediately pre-ordered all forms of it. So I'm looking forward to
So
that.
is it a what's the original language of the book?
I assume Japanese. It's by Eiko Kadano, and the translator
Okay.
is Emily Balestreri. I'm probably pronouncing these horribly
Mm.
wrong. Even just the blurb expands on the plot a little bit from what we saw in the movie. It
Okay.
the back cover blurb explains that Kiki is only a half witch, which is why her powers don't work quite as well as the others, as seen in the
Mm.
film. So she's got some identity issues going on with that, which is part of the reason she chooses to strike out and prove herself on a witch and has some self doubt later on. So yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, these Ghibli adaptations often are pretty different from the source material. I'm thinking of like The Borrowers, but
I'm thinking of Howl's
especially
Moving
Howl's Moving
Castle.
Castle
Yeah,
is quite different from the novel.
yeah.
Yeah.
But so that's my plug. That's a thing that's happening tomorrow, and I'm excited about.
Cool.
So
May I plug?
yeah, I don't see why not.
Well, I'm actually going to use my plug for self promotion because there's another podcast project that I do,
Ooh.
although it's very. I feel weird, like, even recommending it and talking about it because it's something that me and my like family do very much to amuse ourselves, and then we record it and put it on the internet because, and we don't really care if anybody listens to it. But it's about Eurovision,
Yeah.
the Eurovision Song Contest, which, if you don't know anything about it, a bunch of countries in Europe and slightly outside of it make a song and do a contest. It's pretty self-explanatory, but it's a lot of cheesy fun. And what we do is talk over. The way I describe it is it's sort of like a family Eurovision party that you're sitting in on, and it's very casual. We talk over all the songs. We make fun of the outfits. We try and decide what's our favorite song from the night, and we just kind of watch a random year's broadcast and talk over it, and then put that up as a podcast called Null Point.
I don't know. That sounds delightful
So
to me.
yeah, I figure it might be like good background thing, but to get the full effect, you have to kind of watch the broadcast as well in a separate video, and I don't really know how we expect anyone to do that. But if you're not interested in that, then at least I would recommend checking out a Eurovision Song Contest. Just pick any of them, it's fine. But particularly this year, since it was cancelled, people might not know that, like COVID-19, they cancelled the whole show.
Mm.
So there's not going to be,
Yeah,
there wasn't a
that's
contest this year.
super
And there would have been.
understandable.
But people might not know that there were actually a set of songs. Every country that was going to participate made a song, made a music video, and they're all viewable on the official
Ooh,
Eurovision
I
YouTube
did
channel.
not know that.
And they even put together a sort of show that showcased the videos or the songs in one sort of package, or two, they split it up, that you can see on the official channel as well. So there's some really good songs this year. My favorite in particular is Iceland, although I also liked Australia's entry and a few others. But yeah, Eurovision, check it out. That's something I'm really into, so I just figure I'd plug it here.
Nice.
Cool.
Good stuff.
All right, so thanks very much for listening. This has been fun. I have been Milo.
And I continue to be Gibbon, as far as I'm aware. And we hope you will join us next time as we round out this apparently 3-part series on arcade era cartoons.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.